fastest for the Penske, just barely pimping out, pimping, bumping out his teammate. I don't know where pimping came from. Maybe he was pimping his teammate Will Power. Oh goodness. Live radio, gotta love it.
If a man, I guarantee you that was not a knock on you, so don't feel bad.
All right, we'll go. So, of course, but Will Power did set the fastest time on the primary tire and was the fastest on the harder compound. Felix Rosenfest, we talked a little bit about him earlier, was the top Chip Ganassi driver in the fourth, while James Hinchcliffe was again the fastest for Errol Schmidt Peterson. We didn't get a chance to talk with Tyson a little bit about it when they were up in Toronto. How cool was that to see Whitcliffe driving that specially designed car with his fiance take a lap around the streets of Toronto? Let's talk a little bit about how cool that was and the special engineering that Errol did for that car. Obviously, we've seen the owner, Sam Schmidt, take the same similar type of drives. And those that don't know about Sam Schmidt, obviously he's paralyzed and he's confined to a wheelchair due to a racing accident in Orlando many, many years ago. And he's bounced back to be one of the best team owners in the series in both Indy Lights and IndyCar. But how cool was that to see Robert Wickens take that lap with his fiance around Toronto?
Well, it's good to see that he is making progress. Now, granted, he admitted the week after his back to serious rehabilitation, so he's a ways away before competing in an auto racing car at speed ever again. But good to see that progress is being made. He's probably going to avoid paralysis, which is a good thing as well after what happened to Sam. But ultimately, right now, I think it's still a wait and see whether or not he gets back into an IndyCar again. I still think that is still many months, if not years away. For Robert Wickens, a very promising driver last year. Unfortunately, the accident at Pocono put a damper on his future plans.
Let's talk a little bit about Matthew Least taking seventh for AJ Foyt Racing. Was a surprise boost, really, because he finished ahead of Jack Harvey. That's who everybody's talking about over there in the Foyt camp. What are your thoughts about them?
I think Lace right now is driving for his job. I mean, granted, I don't know if that is a coveted ride, considering, the kind of disorganization we keep talking about with Foyt. I mean, I know our friend, I don't remember her name, who was on our show for Field 33, said the team is starting to make progress. I don't know how you can necessarily make progress when you still have one team based in Texas and one team based in Indianapolis. They have not completed the full transition of this team to Indianapolis as they had planned to have done by this time last year. And I just don't think it's a successful partnership. I mean, that's why I think TK is also struggling. But I think if you're looking at possibilities of drivers not being in IndyCar next year, unless Matthias Leist makes some progress, I have a feeling AJ Foyt and Larry Foyt might be looking for a driver. If not, who knows? Whoever wins the IndyCar or the Indy Lights Championship with the scholarship advancement, that might be the seat where they end up for 2020.
Talking about Indianapolis-based teams, Ed Carpenter Racing, Spencer Pigot. I mean, you got to be happy with what Spencer's been able to bring to Ed Carpenter, and he's very, very strong on courses like Mid-Ohio. Of course, he was ninth fastest in practice yesterday. But what are your thoughts about Spencer Pigot as we get ready for the Mid-Ohio tomorrow?
I still feel like they're in a no-win situation because it still seems to me that Ed Carpenter Racing just is not interested in these road and street courses. Where do they make the majority of their noise? Ovals. So I think beyond, say, Pocono and Gateway, I don't really see anything where, podiums are in play on road and street circuits. I don't know if it's just the distaste that Ed Carpenter had with them when he was a driver or what the case is, but it just doesn't seem like the excitement is there when they make their way to one of these road and street circuits. Now, granted, it was there when Mike Conway was driving, but it fizzed out when Jordan King drove for them last year as their road course specialist. And Ed Jones mired in 21st on the charts yesterday. I think that clearly says that he hasn't figured out or has the chemistry to be competitive on the road street circuits like we thought he might be. with this organization. I mean, I think it just says, unfortunately, the ECR's priorities right now are making the best noise on the oval tracks in the places where they feel like they can win, and they've kind of, just shown up and been there for the road and street circuits. I don't say it's a bad thing, but it doesn't necessarily make them look all that great.
Well, let's move on down. 10th fastest in practice yesterday, Simon Bourdais, DCR Racing. I like Simon. I think he's a good, aggressive driver. The thing about Mid-Ohio, unless something unforeseen happens, if you're not up there in the top 5, it's going to be very hard for you to advance. But we'll see what happens when we get into qualification later today. But Sebastian Bourdais with DCR Racing.
Good things going for Coyne right now. I think we've seen some decent stuff from Bourdais. We've seen some decent stuff from Ferrucci. I think he's cleaned up his image greatly. I don't think you're going to see any of those guys lose rides for next year. I think there'll be the same lineup for 2020. I think Ferrucci is still got a little ways to go as far as consistency right now, but I think he is doing a lot better in cleaning up his image. He's not being the cocky guy that he was when he was in Europe. And I think he realizes that he's not the superstar here, and I think he's mellowed out just a little bit and is now refocusing on trying to be the better driver instead of being, a guy that is all bark and no bite. And I think that's the thing that Ferrucci's got to work on. Bourdais, obviously getting up there in age, so the question is how many more years is he going to have left in the tank? But I think the team is still in the right direction. They still got decent support from Jimmy Basser and Sully Sullivan. So I think right now they should still be competitive. I don't know if it's going to be this weekend, though, unless they make a big splash in qualifying.
The other Chip Ganassi racer, the Iceman, Scott Dixon, been relatively quiet here at Ohio in practice. Yesterday he was 16th fastest in practice, so not a lot of noise he's making right now. Scott Dixon, Chip Ganassi, Mid-Ohio.
Well, keep in mind, there's still several other ways that you can skin the cat. I mean, if you get an early yellow, you can go off sequence. That can move him up there if he doesn't qualify well. So I wouldn't necessarily discount him yet on the situation, but like you said, it doesn't look good for him, and it certainly doesn't look good, say, for Graham Rahal, who was absolutely last in the practice session yesterday on his home track, nonetheless.
Let's talk about that other rookie that everybody's been talking about with DCR, the other DCR guy, and that's Antonio Ferrucci. Certainly one that we think is going to be one of the top rookies this year. And certainly you look at we've talked about him before with him and Colton Herta, but certainly Colton Herta is proven to be the better driver, at least at Mid-Ohio.
Been decent right now, but like I said with Ferrucci, I think he's getting his act together. I mean, he's 12th in the points, second in the rookie points. He's only 14 behind Rosenquist for Rookie of the Year honors at this point, so things are looking good for them. Just a little bit more pace, I think, and that would finish things off because he's showing the consistency he needs right now. And like I said, he's mellowed himself out a bit since all the bad stuff he did in Europe. I think he certainly is starting to figure out that you have to provide the results first before you can start, being brash and arrogant and all this other thing. You have to, walk the walk before you can talk the talk. And I think he's starting to understand that now. And I think you saw that in Indianapolis. He had a solid run there, and he's had decent runs, not necessarily great runs, but decent runs throughout the schedule. At least the thing is with him, as opposed to Colton Herta, he is getting to the finish of these races, and that is how you earn points instead of running one great super lap and getting everyone's attention and then failing to finish.
Tony Kanaan, Tomoko Soto, I love saying that name, Ed Jones and Marco Andretti are rounding out the bottom parts of the practices yesterday. What are your thoughts?
Sato, I'm surprised considering Mid-Ohio has been one of his better road courses. I would have thought he would have been higher up on the list considering also the home track. But like I said, Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan just has been out of it so far. I think Rossi was taking it easy, just, light playing, rolling with the punches, just like Dixon was. And TK, I hate to say it, but I'm starting to wonder is just the focus beyond Indianapolis lacking for TK right now. Because other than Indianapolis, I think we saw this with Elio Castroneves as well. There just doesn't seem like the fire is in TK in any event outside the Indianapolis 500 now. And that, it's sad but true, but I'm starting to think here, if this continues down this path, may not be long before TK becomes an Indy specialist, say like Townsend Bell was and Oriol Servia currently is.
You know, you're absolutely right about that, and I think there's been rumblings about him retiring for a few years now. I talked with him here in Indianapolis. I point blank asked him. I said, "Are we getting to the end of an era?" And he's like, "No, I'm going to drive as long as somebody lets me in the car." So maybe he'll be forced. Won't be the right word. He's one of those names like Elio Castroneves that will always have a spot in IndyCar and at Indy.
Tom, here's the thing. Yeah, I get it. Tony Kanaan is one of the fittest drivers on the circuit, but fitness doesn't get you all the way there. It's also, like I say, it's between the ears, and either you have it in the mindset that I can still do it, or you don't. And right now, the thing is, and as much as I love TK, I just don't see that desire to be up front and be competitive like he had during the years, during his heyday in the 2000s, and he competed, lead at every lap, won the championship in 2004, and in the last several years. I just don't see that anymore. I don't know if it's just because the ride's not competitive anymore that he currently has with Ford or what the situation is, but outside of Indy, I just don't see the fire that we normally see for Team K.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. One other driver, his home track is Ohio, Columbus, Ohio. Graham Rahal, Letterman Racing, very last place, not doing good at his home track.
Yeah, same with Veach as well, who also is at his home track, and he also has been struggling as well, another Ohio kid. Like I said, Rahal Letterman's just missed it so far. I mean, Sato was only 20th, Rahal was last. Not sure what the situation is. Of course, there's a lot of things going on as far as rumblings with Rahal, what their plans are. There's been rumors that they are looking at possibly taking the BMW program to Le Mans, since they are going to be outside of the FIA WEC Super Season. So I don't know if that's becoming a distraction or what the situation is. They keep talking about them wanting to expand to a third car. Possibly Jordan King might be in the mix for that. I'm starting to wonder if those distractions are starting to get in the way of their focus here, because you would think that having the home track advantage would help them, but it's been more of a crutch and a negative so far, and I'm starting to wonder if it's the stuff that's going outside of the track limits right now that's holding this team up a little bit, because there's a lot of unknowns about what this team is going to do for 2020 outside the sport of IndyCar racing.
Well, we're going to wrap it up and put a bow on the racing segment, but real quickly, what are you working on? I know we talked a little bit about something you were talking about, women in racing. Is something you want to promote there? Go right ahead, sir.
I got to say, it's very troubling what's happening right now. I mean, you have just one IndyCar driver that competes at the Indianapolis 500 and Pippa Mann, and you don't see any others on the schedule. And the closest in NASCAR has to a female driver getting to the top ranks is a driver still in development, Haley Deegan. And after having 3 women in the Knoxville Nationals last year, right now we currently have none on the entry list. We're only 2.5 weeks out before that race gets underway. So if you're a fan of the female drivers, I think you could be a little bit, understandably, a little troubled about what's going on currently in the years post-Danica.
Matthew Embry, our official IndyCar contributor from WSBT up in South Bend. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Have yourself a good race weekend. And we're going to get things kicked off with the NFL coming up soon. Matthew, where can people find your work and your masterpieces, sir?
MATTMBURY on Twitter. Let me throw my 2 cents as far as NFL. I think, I hate to say it, but I think the great team right now is the Cleveland Browns. I just don't believe the hype charge possibly going for the AFC Championship this year. And I think the team's going to be the Saints. They can't re-sign other top wide receivers like Michael Thomas. I think they're really going to have a problem of finding targets for Drew Brees in 2019.
Yeah, absolutely. You were cutting out